And of course, the consultant that we selected was Edmond and ORCHANGO. And so we were excited to bring him on board. And so what we'd like to share now is for you to hear directly from Jane, as I mentioned, head of oncology, onboarded during COVID, kicking off our oncology business, and a real personal driver behind this culture change for us. So we'll hear what Jane has to say.
For me, culture is the key to building a high-performing team and ultimately a high-performing organization. Now, when I joined GSK, I had the mandate of building a new division, and what I saw were decisions being made at a pace that didn't match the needs of my business and taken at a level that didn't necessarily match the vision that I had for the division I was trying to build. So I started to push on the concept of agile ways of working. What I realized very quickly was that deeply ingrained cultures, they're really hard to change, and it's not for the faint of heart.
I find it very useful when we start to work with clients on a culture shift or any strategic transformation to go back to the metaphor of a passenger airplane taking off. And before I explain the analogy and the key points we make to the client, it was quite interesting, and Nicole, that you embraced at GSK this metaphor.
Yes, absolutely. We found it really, really key to have this story, to have a metaphor, to have a visual aid to help. It just gave us something to anchor to in terms of where we were and how we were progressing. So that analogy of the airplane really became our story. We talked about a journey. At one time, Edmond did use a canoe, and I remember the canoe sort of going through the fog, but the airplane was one that yeah, there's the paddle, that really gave us, you know, the momentum and the flight that we wanted to go on. And so we all embraced that analogy, and it became part of our story. So it was a great visual aid, a great storytelling tool as well. So yeah, we really gravitated towards it.
Yeah, and what it does, it helps us anticipate what is going to happen, and as a result, do the right thing as the things unfold. So let me share with you the actual slide that we share with clients, in that case, GSK. So the blue curve that is going to show up here is basically how the culture shift is going to unfold. And as you can see, it's similar to the flight path of a passenger plane. And we make 3 points. The first one is that when we're in a plane and the plane is starting to move along the runway, it can be a little bit unnerving because there is a lot of noise, it's shaking, you can even smell kerosene being burnt, and yet you are still on the ground and you are wondering, hold on, are we going to take off before the end of the runway, which can be a little bit stressful. However, the pilot, the co-pilot, and the folks in the control tower, they know what to look for. And as long as the things are moving in the right direction in their gauges, then they know everything will be fine. We are going to take off. So that's for the front end of the journey. You need to ask yourself, do we have motion in the right direction? And if you do, be a little bit patient, and you are going to take off eventually. In a passenger plane, when we take off, it's exhilarating. Yeah, we made it. We are not to hit the end of the runway. We are actually starting the journey. However, in aviation, this is where most of the accidents are happening. Just think about the Hudson River story a few years ago around Manhattan. So what you see similarly in a culture shift is that when you start to take off, this is where you really, really need to pay attention because you are getting into the danger zone. And listed here in the gray box are the typical things that can bring the journey back to the ground. And the third point that we make is about our involvement at ORCHANGO. It's going to be a reverse curve to the blue curve. Initially very involved, which is why you are going to see me talk more in the front end of the story today. But then we start to disappear as the company GSK started to get out of the danger zone and keeps gaining altitude towards cruising altitude. It is very important for the consultants to start to get one step at a time out of the way for the company to fly with its on the wings, so to speak. And Nicole, you have a point about the tower, the control tower piece, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, many of us bring consultants in to get us started, to hit key milestones. But as Edmond said, at the end of the journey, we know we have to be doing it on our own, flying the plane on our own. But what I found was really critical at that high consultant involvement stage, Edmond, for me, became the control tower. he's been through this so many times with so many other companies that he could see ahead, right? Are you going to hit turbulence? Are you hitting a cloud? Oh, normally this happens around here, so watch out for this, right? And what can we do to make sure that we're listening and watching out, and we're monitoring our control dashboard? And so Edmond being in that control tower in those early phase was so critical and important, and I often referred to him that way. And so again, just really helpful and to have those insights.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, so let's go back to the story now. So ORCHANGO was brought on board. So now we had to start working on it. So this was September 2020. So the first thing we did, which we always do, is we need to gain a vivid picture of the true reality. And we always go about the same way. So what I did is that I sat down first one-on-one